Hello everybody, Maven here, and today we have to talk about the reissued Liminal Vigil Sidearm from Rite of the Nine that is farmable via Spire of the Watcher. Now this sidearm does something that should not exist. I'm glad it does exist, but in other words, it breaks the rules of Destiny 2. Today we're focusing on PvP, but if you were interested in PvE, shameless plug, but the other day I did a video going over all 12 Rite of the Nine god rolls, and I'll link that video down below and in the top right corner if you'd like to check it out. But anyways, let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. Alright, so let's start by taking a look at the Liminal Vigil's possible roles. In the left column gets Lone Wolf, Headstone, Attrition Orbs, Tap the Trigger, Enlightened Action, and Perpetual Motion. And in the right column it gets Rhyme Stealer, Kill Clip, To the Pain, Desperado, Rangefinder, and Desperate Measures. Now, unless you've been playing Destiny 2 for more than 3 years, you might not notice any strange anomalies about this weapon's roles. But there's actually a perk here that should be illegal, and that's Tap the Trigger. And I know the newer players watching might be confused because Tap the Trigger is a pretty common perk. Well, yes, that's true, but it's a pretty common perk on full auto weapons like auto rifles. You see, about 3 to 4 years ago, I don't remember when, Bungie introduced the full auto retrofit game setting as a quality of life improvement, so we no longer had to spam fire our high RPM semi-auto weapons such as sidearms, 180 hand cannons, 260 scout rifles, etc. I genuinely don't remember if the full auto retrofit weapon mod came before the game setting. It's been a while, but either way, that doesn't matter. So anyway, back in the day, before the full auto game setting was put into the game, Tap the Trigger was a perk that commonly rolled on semi-auto weapons as well as full auto weapons. It's a perk that grants you a short period of 40 increased stability, 50% less recoil, and 10% more accuracy. And back then, it was an amazing perk on semi-auto weapons, but not too insane when you take into account the fact that you had to manually press your trigger on faster firing weapons such as 360 RPM sidearms, and it was kind of impossible to spam it at max speed consistently. It was a lot of tapping. But after the introduction of the full auto retrofit game setting, that's when everything changed, because now you can just hold down the trigger with their semi-auto weapons and they essentially just fire full auto for free. And this is what broke Tap the Trigger, because the perk triggered on every single shot as though you were firing semi-auto, but in reality you just had the new game setting on and you were just holding the trigger. So essentially it just cheesed the way Tap the Trigger works, and it just triggered on every single shot. And it was from that point on that Bungie stopped putting this perk on semi-auto weapons, and about a year after that, the Spire of the Watcher dungeon came out along with the Liminal Vigil Sidearm, and it rolled with Tap the Trigger as a semi-auto weapon, and that was an anomaly at the time. It was the last of its kind to do that. And since that day, no other semi-auto weapon has rolled with Tap the Trigger. And last week, with the launch of Rite of the Nine, I was ecstatic to find out that they actually kept Tap the Trigger on the Liminal Vigil, and they also kept Kill Clip to roll along with that to create one super nasty PvP roll. So you basically get free maxed out stability, recoil, and some free accuracy on this weapon, making it the best PvP sidearm of the Heavy Burst family. And this weapon gave me hope. The Liminal Vigil has given me hope that Tap the Trigger might have the chance to roll on more semi-auto weapons in the future, or non-rapid fire frame sidearms at the very least, although the chances are extremely slim. I was talking to Chris Proctor, the senior design lead at Bungie, who is mainly in charge of weapon design. I was talking to him in person. I was literally sitting at a table with him, and I brought this whole thing up about Tap the Trigger and semi-auto weapons, and he seemed pretty on the fence about bringing Tap the Trigger back to semi-auto weapons. I told him if there is any weapon in the entire game that I would love to have reissued, it's the translation theory from Season 4. And I specifically wanted Tap the Trigger and Kill Clip to be kept on it. And that's how this whole conversation started. The translation theory is a sidearm that is the same archetype as the Drang. Imagine if the Drang had maxed out stability and recoil along with kill clip. It would be unbelievably meta. It would be by far the best sidearm in the entire game. And I am extremely jealous of any of you guys who might still have a translation theory in the vault with tap the trigger with threat detector or tap the trigger moving target, because that thing is a hidden gem. That thing is a masterpiece. And when the Dreaming City weapons got reissued last year, I was very sad that the translation theory wasn't a part of it, because it is indeed a Dreaming City weapon. But hopefully the lore will take us back to the Dreaming City again one day to defeat the Scorn or the Taken, and perhaps we'll get it back, but only time will tell. But anyways, that was my extremely long and tedious way of saying that the Liminal Vigil is a godlike sidearm. And if you are an avid sidearm enjoyer in PvP, then this is a role that you should 100% go and pick up. If you grab an Adept role, you only need to reach 56 stability and you basically have 100, because enhanced tap the trigger actually grants you 44 stability. So you can just dump a majority of your stat points into range and you'll be good to go. So in other words, this thing is a stat monster, and the TTK is pretty solid as well. At base, you get an optimal TTK of 0.73 with the body shot TTK of 1.10. And when you activate kill clip, you drop that optimal down to 0.47, killing in only 4 shots, with the body shot TTK being a 3 burst at 0.86. So it's an absolute melt. But in the gameplay, I wasn't actually using an optimal build to take advantage of this thing. This is actually, fun fact, my first time stepping into Crucible in 3 months. This is by far the longest break I've ever taken from Crucible, and I actually consider myself more of a PvP player than a PvE player. And I just defaulted to Void Hunter with Stompies because that build is the most natural to me. I can just throw it on and be a sneaky rat, and I know I'll at least do okay. But if you want to be optimal, you would go on Prismatic Hunter and use the Mask of Bacchus to take advantage of the fact that the Liminal Vigil is a stasis weapon. Because when you dodge with Bacchus, you get that light shift damage boost to your arc and stasis weapons. In PvP, this is a 6% damage buff, and it actually shifts your base TTK down to achieve a 2 burst at 0.47 TTK against tier 7 or lower resilience, which is kind of insane. If any of your opponents don't have high resilience and you happen to have a dodge, you basically just get a free kill. You just fly in with your grapple, do your Bacchus dodge, slow them with your Winter Shroud, put up a Strand Clone, and suddenly you teleported behind them and you just get a free 2-tap. There's not much they can do unless they flick the world's most insane shotgun shot. And if you happen to have kill clip online with the Bacchus dodge, you have a potential to kill in 2 head, 2 body against tier 8 or lower resilience. That's an extremely forgiving and easy TTK to pick up. And personally, I always run low resilience in PvP unless I'm on Titan, and I've seen a lot of other players do that as well. So if that is the case for your opponents, you can actually pick up a 5 tap to the body at tier 4 or lower resilience for a TTK of 0.73, which is the same as its normal base optimal TTK except with no crits required. So Bacchus plus Liminal is quite dirty indeed. So have fun with that if you're a rehabilitated Prismatic Hunter cheeser. This might be your ticket to relapse, at least for a little while. Now, as a conclusion, will this be my new main PvP sidearm? No. If I'm being honest, no. I believe that the Heavy Burst archetype is much better on M&K, but I'm a controller player in Crucible, and personally I find a lot more consistency with the rapid fire frames, and the sidearm I've had the most success with is the Fioratura. And I also greatly enjoy things like the Heliocentric, Traveler's Chosen, and the Buzzard. And I do really want to love the Rat King, but for some reason it feels like it blooms a lot and hits some ghost bullets, like especially from like around the 15-meter range. But the Fioratura has been by far the most consistent in my hands personally. But yeah, Liminal will definitely shine more for M&K. If you've ever used the Adept Forgiveness from Trials, this is just a much better version of that. I don't think it's physically possible to get a better Heavy Burst Sidearm than the Liminal Vigil, because tap the trigger is just too incredible. And that's pretty much it for the video. I said what I needed to say and there's not much else to it. It was a little bit of a shorter video, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about the Liminal Vigil. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here for more content on the way. And remember to check out our sponsor, Advanced GEG. Use code MAVEN and check out for 10% off your order. Link down below. And I will catch you in the next video. See you later.